Hi guys, let's introduce ourselves. We are from TBIB in the second group. In this group, there are three members. The first is Okta Nisa Putri, Retna Wulan Adi Suryani, and the last is Nurul Aziza. Here, we will explain about improving the students' reading skill through translation methods. Here I'm Retna Wulan Adi Suryani. As the first presentation, I will explain about the meaning of English and reading. The first is English. English is one of the international languages, becomes the major language of printed information. So it can be in technology, economics, commerce, and science. The most important way which is vital in processing information is reading. By having the reading skills to comprehend passages, textbooks, and references read in English, the students are able to absorb information and knowledge. And then the next is reading. Reading is tool of communication in written language through the text form. And it is the most efficient way to gain information about many aspects of life, including science and technology. So, by reading, people can absorb a number of information. Reading has a very important role and becomes a daily necessity for every person who wants to acquire whatever information which is required. Reading is an essential skill for learners of English as a foreign language. For most of learners, it is the most important skill to master in order to ensure success not only in learning English but also in learning in any content class where reading in English is required. So there are a number of particular problems which will need to be addressed. The first problem is reading comprehension. The problems are related to background knowledge, cultural knowledge, and knowledge of text type. Background knowledge is the student's previous knowledge or knowledge of the word. If students lack prior knowledge in reading a text, they cannot understand it because they don't know what the text is about. A reader uses background knowledge to integrate new information from a text into his prior information. The second problem is limited vocabulary. The problem involves difficulties with words. These difficulties include problems with technical vocabulary, superordinate, synonyms, antonyms, and words with several meanings. Students will have great difficulty in understanding the text as a whole because lack vocabulary. And the next is complex and very long sentences. According to Chawang, complex sentences are sentences that contain many clauses or reduce clauses and abstract concepts. So there is explanation about translation method. Translation method is the process of rendering written language that was produced in one language, the search language, into another, or the target language, or a target language version that results from this process. Translation, in which more emphasis is given to overall meaning than to exact wording, is known as varied translation. And the next explanation about literature review. Number one is reading skill. Richard and Smith assert that listening, speaking, reading and writing are generally called language skills. Sometimes speaking and writing are called the active or productive skill, and reading and listening are the passive or receptive skills. The next is Marilyn states that reading is making meaning from print and from visual information. But reading is not simple. Reading is an active process that requires a great deal of practice and skill. Okay guys, the next details will be presented by Okta Anissa Putri.
I'm Okta Anissa Putri. I want to explain about literature review. The first is reading skill, explained by Rena. Second is the goal of reading. Reading is an ability which is extremely important for students. For instance, their insight in particularly in English language. The writer appraised that one of the way for increasing student reading ability is by knowing the purpose of the reading. We first and temporarily address 7 main purposes of reading. The first, to obtain information for some purpose of because we are serious about the topic. Second, to obtain instruction on how to perform some tasks for our work or daily life. Third, to act in a play game, do puzzle. Fourth, to keep in touch with friends by correspondence or to understand business letters. 5. To know when or where something will take place or what is available. 6. To know what is happening or has happened as reported in newspaper, magazines, and etc. 7 is to have enjoyment or excitement. The principle for teaching reading. Principle in teaching are belief and thoughts that teacher agree to effective approach to teaching and learning and which serve as the basis for some of their decision making. There are 6 principles behind teaching reading as follows. The first, reading is not a passive skill. So, second, students need to be engaged with what they are reading. Third, students should be encouraged to respond to the content of a reading text. Fourth, precision is a major factor in reading. 5. Match the text to the topic. So the last, could teacher exploit reading text to the full? Translation method. Translation method is the process of rendering written language that was produced in one language, the source language, into another, the target language, or the target language version that results from this process. Translation, in which more emphasis is given to overall meaning that the exact wording is known as free translation. Point C. Methodology. The research was the classroom action research at MTS Mualimin Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. The subject of the research was the student of grade 7D, with number of 39 students as the participant, because they have less skill in reading. It can be known from the result of pre-reading comprehension test, which undertaken by researcher with the lowest score was 35 and the main score was 55. It also based on the result interview of an English teacher. That is one important element in the research, namely to find out the implementation of translation method can improve the student reading skill or not. The questionnaire used to know the student respond to use translation method in teaching. The research data were collected through the first, observation. Observation was undertaken by other researchers to gather the data of student activity when the action was taking place. Second, the test was performed in the end of meeting in each cycle to know that there is an improvisation of each cycle or not. The item test consists of 30 questions in the 5 forms or multiple choice, and the duration is about 90 minutes. The short questionnaire was applied for gaining student response or produce implement, which is applied when teaching and learning process is taking place. Research product used were a self-reflective spiral of planning, acting, observing, reflecting, and replanning, and how to take action to improve an education situation. Okay, maybe until here. See you.
My name is Nuril Azizah. Now I want to tell about findings and discussion. The research consists of 3 cycles, and each cycle had 4 steps: planning, acting, observing, and reflecting. And every cycle consisting of 3 meetings. In the cycle 1, the teacher conducted an evaluation by giving multiple choice questions to the students. And the result of reflecting cycle 1 is the first, the application of translation method in teaching and learning can motivate the student to learn, particularly in reading. And the second, students found that the reading could be easier if it was done together. And the last is students' vocabularies were still poor and they found it difficult to answer some questions. For cycle 2 and 3, the teacher also gave the multiple choice question to the students. And the result of reflection in cycle 2, the first, answering WH question could assist students to answer many questions about reading. And the second, practicing dialogue in teaching and learning process could enhance students' pronunciation. And the last, find out the synonym and antonym. The word could be a bridge to increase the students' vocabularies. And the result of reflection in cycle 3 is the first, translating a text could become a bridge to enhance the students' vocabulary and it could assist them to comprehend a text. The second, asking students orally before introducing a topic could help them to understand the next activities easily. And the last, the limited time could assist students for really using the time as well as possible. At the end of the intervention, the students were asked to fill in questionnaires. The questionnaires asked the student to respond to the use of translation method to improve students' reading skill. So from here we can conclude the translation method can be an alternative method in teaching English, especially to improve reading skills, and student responses was positive when the translation method was applied in teaching reading.